No, he's not.
Everyone's
He had
good?
to go for an appointment.
So, welcome to the regular meeting of the Council of the Corporation of the Township of North Dundas, today being June 4th, 2025. I'm going to call the meeting to order at 4:32 p.m. To the adoption of the agenda, be it resolved that the agenda be adopted as presented, moved by Councillor Lennox and Councillor Uhrig, seconded by Councillor Uhrig. Any disclosures of pecuniary interest and general nature thereof? Seeing none. We're going to move right into staff reports. We're going to bypass staff report. Development Services Director Paul. I'm going to speak about the draft plan of subdivision of 01-ND-S-2025 draft conditions, whereas Ian Drew Enterprises has submitted an application for plan of subdivision, SDG file 01-ND-S-2025 for 16 residential lots on part of Lot 7, Concession 9, former Township of Mountain, now the Township of North Dundas, under Section 5116 of the Planning Act, and whereas the public information session was held in Hallville on April 30th, 2025, in accordance with the county official plan, now therefore be resolved that the Council of the Township of North Dundas hereby requests that the United Counties of SDG incorporate the following 22 conditions attached hereto as Appendix A into Plan A of subdivision number 01-ND-S-2025, moved by, do I have a mover? Councillor Lennox, seconded by Deputy Mayor Bergeron. Mr. Paul.
Thank you, Mayor Fraser, members of council. So this is a draft conditions based on the subdivision that we did an open public session back in April. There's a follow-up on that. We reviewed all the documents submitted. That includes the hydrogeological reports, the drainage reports, all the draft reports that came in as part of the subdivision, and from those we developed conditions. So these are the 22 conditions that we've developed based on those submissions to move forward. There is two little adjustments to the conditions based on the consultant's response back to seeing the draft going before council. One, we added the word and, or, after there's some sodium in the water and there's potential hardness in the water, as well as there's potential for, there's one other item, hardness in the water. They may have to be treated, so we included the word and because it could be one or the other, not just all of them together. It depends where you drill your well, and on that property it varies from place to place. So there's a condition advising owners you may have to treat the water for these things or these parameters. So there's that. And also for the stormwater, he asked for a little more flexibility on the stormwater, that they can look at alternative options with regard to the stormwater. That being, you can do different kinds of swales, catchment areas, ponds. There's various options. He wanted to have that more open that they can look at different conditions and options based on the site conditions that they find. So that's a very reasonable request. There's a slight tweak to the condition for that, to allow for that. Other than that, the conditions are the same as you see in front of you.
Thank you very much. Questions, comments from Mr. Paul? Councillor Lennox.
Condition number 17 in the appendix. We've chatted about this before, and during the election, after the election 2 years ago, the residents in the cul-de-sac just to the northwest complain about internet. Now, is there any way for future conditions for us to be more specific in asking telecommunication, infrastructure, other in excess of just 911 services?
Yeah, so that's something we could definitely consider through you, Mr. Mayor, to add in different. There's a lot of telecommunications companies out there right now, and it's growing by the week almost, because they're now putting new fiber down most of the roads in North Dundas, as you're aware of, so that'll be a new one available too. Before, it used to say just Bell. We've moved away from that because who has a landline anymore? Not many. I've transferred mine over. I know a lot of people have transferred their landline over. And to force that kind of infrastructure in a new development, it's almost pointless these days with the way the technology is moving. And the cost is very burdensome for a developer to have to put all the bell lines in. I think the last quote we had was like $220,000 for a subdivision to put the bell lines in. So that was excessive, so we've looked at different options there to allow for internet capacity and cell phone capacity in a subdivision. But they have to demonstrate that that's available to that subdivision. At least one company is readily available and good connections as far as it's either Bell, Rogers, TELUS, whatever company, but they have to demonstrate they have good capacity for 911 calling, because you want to have emergency vehicles to be able to get there and actually the call goes through. So that's where we're heading with that.
No, perfect. It's just in a day and age where everyone has a cell phone. A landline's becoming more archaic every day, but with young families coming to hopefully use the splash park in the near future and et cetera, and working from home still a thing for most federal employees and some provincial. Yeah, having the internet or quality internet where you don't get the blue spinny ring when your kid decides to watch Netflix while you're in a MS Teams meeting would be a good thing.
Thank you, Councillor. Anything further? All those in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, that's carried. Excuse me. We're going to move to the noise exemption request for Dundas Manor. Be it resolved that council authorize a temporary exemption permit to public nuisance bylaw number 2016-20 for construction of the new Dundas Manor located at 543 Clarence Street, Winchester, from June 4, 2025 to June 30th, 2025. Weather conditions might affect when work can be completed. Moved by Deputy Mayor Bergeron, seconded by Councillor Lennox. Mr. Paul?
Thank you, Mayor Fraser. So this is a noise exemption for the Dundas Manor. When they pour the slabs, they have to pour it all at once. They pour it all day, and then they have to smooth it out. It sometimes extends into the evening hours, and they might have a generator that they buffer running. It's unfortunate we have to do it in one pour, and it's different sections of this building, so this is for the month of June. They got it in time for this council meeting, so we don't need to do an exception to the bylaw or anything. We're hoping to move that forward in the future. It's a little difficult for staff to be delegated that authority. This is a big project. It's a one-off. We don't get these every day. We prefer that council makes that decision so that the public don't scream and yell at staff, but you can understand this comes from council. Council's agreeable to this one-time pour and different events during the construction of the different floors as they go upwards, and hopefully are done this summer.
Thank you. Questions, comments? Councillor Urick.
No, I think that was just a good note to mention that this is a one-time thing. This is not a coming every day sort of request sort of thing, right? So get it done, be gone with it. It's a significant project for this municipality, so yeah, by all means.
Thank you for your comments, Councillor. No, and I think we've demonstrated that we are in support of this build moving forward as quickly as possible with the least amount of hindrance, especially caused by council or staff. We don't want to be the reasons why things slow down, and I think the public, excuse me, I do believe the public understands the need for this build, and as we can see from the commitment from all the financial support throughout the catchment area, that everyone wants to see this project move ahead as quickly as possible. So all those in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, that's carried. Thank you, Mr. Paul. We're going to move to Recreation and Culture. The budget amendment for Joel Steele Community Center sound system. Be it resolved that council approve budget amendment number 2025-06 in the amount of up to $20,000 to finance the repair of the Joel Steele Community Center sound system. Moved by Deputy Mayor Bergeron, seconded by Councillor Annable. Ms. Meerberg.
Good evening, Council. Is that all?
It's working. It's working.
It's working? Okay, thank you. Sorry. Thank you. Good evening, Council. During preparation of this year's expo, it was discovered that the arena sound system was not working properly. The horns were emitting high-frequency sounds, but the speakers or woofers were not operational at all. After troubleshooting the issues for over 2 hours, the local tech contractor who was hired for expo preparations needed to reach out to another local tech for aid. The speakers over the stands were still not operational for the expo, and although not as loud as the speakers over the slab would be, the speakers in the stand were decidedly used for the event. The volume of speakers in the hall was unusably low, with all gains set to a maximum. The volume, which should have been uncomfortably loud, was referred to as elevator volume. Following the expo, a local sound technician was brought in to give an initial assessment and provided a budgetary price, which included a maximum amount based on the information available at the time. Since my report for this meeting was drafted, more information has become available. The sound technician has advised that every speaker in the Joel Steele Community Center, including the lobby, upstairs community hall, and above the slab and stands, has very much exceeded its expected lifespan. The serial numbers of some of these units date back to manufacture in early 2002. There are 5 speakers above the slab. They're great quality speakers, we're advised, but were not designed for an arena type environment or application. They're comprised of some cardboard components which are not weatherized. With years of exposure to condensation, they have deteriorated. These speakers are mounted to the ceiling with hangers. When the speakers were dismounted to be inspected, it was identified that the hanger connections are corroded and are not fit to be reinstalled. They can be replaced though. The amp that powers the 5 speakers of the slab has blown a capacitor and will need to be replaced. Even if it was operating correctly, it's potentially not suitable for the new speakers that are required. The zone mixer in the office has very much come to the end of its usable life. The zone mixer controls all the ins and outs of the volume across the community center sound system and is basically the heart of the system. There are several failed buttons and sections of that unit. The consultant advises that some of the problems that we've experienced over the years with the sound system can be linked to this one particular piece of equipment, so it will need to be replaced. Dairyfest Roller Skating and the Winchester Skating Club have brought in speakers for some of their events, I'm told. And so I'm requesting that council approve the budget amendment as presented so that staff and contractors can endeavor to have the sound system operational for the upcoming ice season.
Thank you. Questions, comments? I'm going to weigh in. I've been using the sound system at both arenas since probably prior to 2002. And so that one that's in the Sam Alton at the Winchester facility. I've often wondered why we have such a system in that facility that isn't fit for the type of environment it is, and I'm interested in finding out why we are, or are we investigating the use of a speaker that is generally found in arenas and sports facilities, an octo sound, if you would. And that's what I'm interested in. I see that they're not $20,000. I know there's more to it, but I think of the $20,000, council members, and I think that we do have challenges in the Chesterfield Arena. We have challenges apparently in the Winchester Arena. And then when I hear about the figure skating club, the skating club, and roller skating, bringing in their own sound systems, we do have sound systems in-house that are portable and they could be used by them in the interim until this is finalized, this project. I have strong concerns that we're going to rebuild and install something similar to what we already have, and we still are not addressing the state of the type of speaker that's used in most sports facilities. We're not going down that path, and I don't understand why we're not going down that path of using something that is understood to be the benchmark for speaker systems in facilities, the octo sound. That's my challenge. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We can definitely investigate something like that. We can either look at replacing apples for apples, so 5 speakers over the stands for 5 speakers, or look at something like that. It also depends on if council approves some budget to go towards this project. So we can try and work within the confines of the budget allocated, but I am advised that we need at least $20,000 to try and repair and replace the components to get the system operational again.
Well, this is the challenge I have. You know, when I think of $20,000, I think of compressors, condensers, humidifiers, hard water, soft water, of all of those things that are definitely needed to ensure that the ice is used by all user groups. And I've commented to others that we've been nickel-diming and really parsing the money spent in our recreation facilities over the years. And now here's something that, to be upfront, mid-March I was using the system upstairs and it was fine. User groups have commented that, some user groups, but the junior team and the minor hockey have commented that it works for them. And I haven't heard from figure skating, but I'm sure in the interim, if it's an issue, we could satisfy their needs somehow with some of the equipment that we have already in-house. And we have 2 speakers here in-house that aren't being used on a regular basis, if it was needed, something like that. But I really am interested in understanding further what the $20,000 is going to be spent on. And that Octosound, whenever I go to any professional sports arena in the area, Montreal, Ottawa, Toronto, this is Carleton University, these are the systems they're using. They're not using all of those speakers, and this is the challenge I have. Councillor Urick.
Well, I would share that same sentiment, Mr. Mayor, because I'm thinking, here we are looking, at a request for 20,000 here. So once the ice goes in Chesterville in a few months' time, and then the senior Rockets aren't happy with the system there, what are we looking at, right? Like, I'm not suggesting that's going to happen, but we are very much looking at 2 arenas with 2, I would say faulty, probably, sound systems in the grand scheme of things. I know they're, speaking specifically of the Chesterfield Arena, there are dead zones. There's speakers everywhere, but there are spots in there that you cannot hear when mostly Mr. Mayor is, announcing anything during those Senior Rockets games, correct? So I'm just, I guess, respectfully, what exhausts me most is hearing this, I think, every year. Every year there's a user group or 2 or 3 or 4 at both of our facilities that have some level of complaint when it comes to these systems. So I do think it is high time that we, I guess, thoroughly investigate and fully, we can't go back, but like understand how in, let's say 2002, just to put a year on it, why a system of that kind would have been installed in a environment in which they're not meant to be, I guess, now that we're learning this, right? And, that wasn't you and that wasn't anybody in this room, but that happened, right? So I think it is, I understand the financial requests, and I understand that, us approving that gets us down this road of researching it, but I do think it is, if there's a will of council to approve $20,000, I do not want it to be 20,000 for what is currently there. It needs to be 20,000 for something that is going to sustain and be beneficial in that environment that we know obviously is prone to condensation and is prone to, wet spots. And just based on the age of the facility and, the work that is being done there to kind of, bring it into this era. I say all that when I go very much down the line of, I think of $20,000 for sound when it's, condensers and boilers and the water, and are we going to run into a situation where they want ice in August and it's not going to happen? And even in in the midst of winter when the ice is complained about, what best serves our user groups? Being able to hear that their kid scored a goal, or being able to see that their kid can play on the ice because it's been installed and functions properly, right? So I'm willing to hear significantly more from my fellow council members before any decision is made.
Thank you. Councillor Annabelle, then Councillor Lennox.
I could go over everything that Councillor Urick has said, but I tend to agree with him. It's a subject that needs a little more investigation, find out what our options are, what actual pieces have to be replaced and or repaired.
Thank you. Councillor Lennox.
I completely agree with Councillor Annabelle and train of thought with my other 2 councillors here. When I see in the report the associated quote, I scrolled down, I don't see anything attached. I'm looking for a system design, just on a piece of paper or something. Just, do you plan to put 2 speakers here, 1 here? How are you going to service upstairs? At the end of the day, as Councillor Urick mentioned, reverse osmosis machine, I forget if that was in the budget, but that solves that problem. The primary use for that arena is ice. Let the kids go score a goal. Yes, this is a nice to have, but to make an informed decision, I would like to see a schematic of some sort of what are we buying? Where's this associated quote? How is the 20,000 or 15,000 going to be spent with 5,000 allocated to the side? That's my thought.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor, any thoughts?
I pretty well agree with John. I would like to see exactly what we're going to get. This is like saying budget $20,000 for a sound system is too broad for me. It's too broad.
Okay, so, Ms. Meerberg, what I'm gathering is no one is dead set against the idea. It's just more information, and I do believe as amalgamation took place a long time ago, it's still there, and I do think that knowing and being aware and in the midst of the struggles in the Chesterfield Arena, what the pushback is going to be. If it's 20,000 spent on a system and where we're still struggling for elbow grease to move some speakers in Chesterville, and we've talked about many times, maybe not well, maybe we haven't spoken about it clearly enough or well enough or in the proper situation about the need for another speaker or a different style of speaker, because it just, we're overwhelming the crowd and underwhelming the players and underwhelming the dead spots, but certain spots are, people don't want to sit there, and then there's spots where people sit and they can't hear. And we need maybe a fuller appreciation of the challenges and some of the options. But I really, as someone that is attached, as the councillor mentioned, I'm involved in the music, I'm involved in the sound, I'm involved in the announcing in Chesterville, and I used to be involved in Winchester, and I go to different facilities, and because of my involvement in the two in North Dundas, I look at the speaker systems and I wonder, how come? I mean, why are we the only ones with that and not with the standard that's in recreation facilities? So I'm interested in finding out about that system, and maybe I'm going beyond my position by talking like that, but as a user, and we are adhering and listening to the user groups, and I am one of them. I don't think there's anyone saying that no, but I think we need to have a fuller understanding before we move ahead
More info.
of some of the options and what is going to be installed. Because at the end of the day, we're all involved in the community. We all have to answer the questions as to why. And to be able to answer that question and to be supportive of whatever is being presented to us, we need to have more information, more understanding. So I'm not sure how we move ahead with this, Madam Clerk.
You can reject this one, and you can come back with a revised motion that has more information in it, or you can defer it, and it will just stay as unfinished business until such time as something's revised.
So is the deferral the easiest?
It's a council decision, not necessarily.
All those in favor of Ms. Meerberg, please.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor. Just to confirm, because we only have about a couple months left until we start preparing the ice, a lift can't go on the ice, like once we have the ice in. So just so I fully understand, if the information isn't available in order for the sound system, like the speakers over the slab, to be replaced or repaired in some fashion before ice goes in, is it council's will to have no sound system in the arena?
I don't think it's our will to have no sound system. I think we'll have to continue doing what we've been doing, using the system that worked at the end of the season and worked in mid-March. And I don't know who flipped the switch between mid-March and April.
Okay.
April, because it seems to have changed drastically in a period of a month.
Yes, so the speakers of the slab do not work. They've been taken down right now. So just so council understands, that's all.
No, I appreciate
Okay.
that. But I think we'll be able to, done on you to have more information for us, and maybe some investigation at our end, and then communication about what's going on and an understanding. We should be able to get this thing going before the ice is in. I fully believe that this problem will be solved before the ice is in. Just it's that number that when I think about all the times we said no to $20,000, $30,000 to keep the ice in good condition, and then in fully understanding the challenges of the ice, when I don't think there's a full understanding of what $20,000 is doing or how it's doing it, and I think that's the issue. So all those in favor of deferral? Opposed to that? And seeing none, it's deferred. Thank you. Environmental Services, Ontario Clean Water Agency operating expenses. Be it resolved that council allows staff to execute change order with the Ontario Clean Water Agency for the addition of the operation and maintenance of a Stimulating active growth reactor at Winchester Lagoon and Reservoir at Chesterville Water Treatment Facility, at the Winchester Lagoon and Reservoir at Chesterville Water Treatment Facility. Moved by Deputy Mayor Bergeron, seconded by Councillor Annabelle. Ms. Ward.
Thank you, Mayor. So I think this is on. Sure. So in front of you this evening is a change order that we received from Ontario Clean Water Agency, and Council is well aware that they are operating authority for water and sewer in Winchester and Chesterville. So this change order comes because we do have a standing agreement with Aqua. They will operate our system for the next 7 years plus an additional 4 years should Council choose so. So any change that comes to that contract that was signed in 2019 has to come back to Council so that Council is aware of any changes they're requesting. So this evening we're looking for, they are looking for an additional $97,000 to be added to their operations and maintenance contract. And the reasoning behind that we were provided was that the Sager system that Council is well aware of that we spent money on at the lagoon is now in operation. It was completed in April of this year. So they now have operating costs associated with that. And then the Chesterville Reservoir as well. There is different components than what used to be there, as Council can imagine. So they're looking for a little bit of extra funds to supply staffing for that operations and maintenance, as well as is provided in the graph that Council can see. The chemical costs have soared since COVID, and we haven't gotten a price adjustment from Aqua for those adjustments that have been made. So those chemical costs have been absorbed by Aqua for the last 4 years. So now we're seeing a reflection of that in this change order. So just so Council's aware, 65,000 of that is going to go to the sewer, and 30,000 is going to go to water. So we do separate those amounts out. However, it should be prorated, so it'll start in July and go to December. So that full 97,000 isn't actually what's going to be implemented this year. It'll be implemented next year at that rate. So we're looking at, with the proration, we're looking at $8,000 additional a month, which will be split between those two water and sewer accounts. This was not budgeted for. We do meet with Aqua quite frequently before the budget is presented to Council. They did not present this to us at that time. So we don't have a budget for it. And as Council's aware, water sewer equals to 0 at the bottom. So we account for anything in excess we have goes to reserves. So we'll have to pull from reserves to fund this operation and maintenance difference. It's not something that we really like doing because we don't like funding operations out of the reserve, but we don't have an option at this time. But next year, we'll ensure that it's accounted for in the operations and maintenance budget and that the reserve remains untouched.
Thank you, Ms. Ward. Questions, comments, Councillor Urick?
Yeah, it was that first note that kind of got me, and I'm not suggesting anything negligent or anything on their part, but I'm just wondering why it may not have been discussed during the budget kind of discussions. Why, like, they knew what was coming online, they knew what the work was being done. I'm just wondering why that wouldn't have come up, or if there is any good reason why that may have not come up.
So through you, Mayor, I would guess, so Aqua is a multi-tiered organization, so a lot of the decisions that are made come from their head office in Toronto. So the process is a lengthy one, so I do believe that the operations team here had it in their best efforts to try and get that executed before budget was to occur. However, the Toronto office didn't follow through, and I think what happened is it got delayed, and then now Toronto has executed, and we're in the middle of budget year, and they aren't too respective of that. So I think that's what happened.
Okay, well, we're all very familiar with bureaucracy, so fair enough. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Further questions, comments? So how do we make up the $97,000? Is that an increase in the water sewer rates?
So to you, Mayor, it wouldn't be an increase to the rates. So what we would do is we would absorb it in the, so if we have a surplus, which we generally do in water sewer, and that's how we build our reserves to replace assets, we will take that money out of the assets and will be a deficit to the reserve for those asset replacements of the 97, well, actually, excuse me, the 48,520, since it'll be from July onwards. What we will do is we're having a rate study completed, as Council's aware. I've sent this information to Watson and Associates to let them know that next year that amount will be in the budget, and then they'll look at whether or not water rates need to increase or if we have some room to absorb it as is.
Thank you. Anything further? All those in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, that's carried. The next item, been held over from information provided since last meeting, I believe. Health and Safety Water Stream Funding 2025 options revisited. Be it resolved that council endorse staff's application to the provincial government for the health and water stream funding for the renewal and improvement of Winchester's collection, distribution, and storm sewer network as identified in priority 1 in the report. Moved by Councilor Urick, seconded by Councilor Hannibal. Ms. Ward.
Thanks, Mayor. So council will recall that we've had this discussion a few times now. So I've come back to council with a bit more information. And I did provide some fact sheets, which are also attached to the agenda for council's reference. So there's 3 priority projects that we can apply for this grant. And if I may, Mayor, if I could, do you want me to go through each priority, or do you wish just to have a little bit of a discussion?
No, I think the public would like to hear it.
Okay, so priority 1 is the collection and distribution upgrades that Winchester requires. So just to run you through this project, so these upgrades are acknowledged in our servicing master plan memo. So these are upgrades that need to occur between now and 20 years out. And the reason why they need to occur is because Winchester is growing, and I'm sure council is aware and planning is aware at sometimes an unprecedented growth rate that we didn't originally expect. So for water distribution, we're looking at basically changing the water main on St. Lawrence from a 200 millimeter to a 300 millimeter. And council will be aware that the water from Wellfield 7 and whatnot comes down St. Lawrence to feed the reservoir that's just right over here across from the township office. So that's one of the primary reasons. As we continue to get more water, we need to have bigger pipes to then take that water somewhere. And on top of that, there's going to be a reservoir storage expansion of 1,400 cubic meters, so similar to what we saw in Chesterville. And then a booster pump upgrade, obviously. So as we get a bigger reservoir, we have bigger pipes, we need a bigger booster pump. So that's all kind of one package in water. We're also considering applying for the West End Loop, which is, as council will probably recall, we're looking for a 300 millimeter pipe from Fred to Christie to the Wellings of Winchester, so the south end of the Wellings of Winchester development. And again, that would tie into the St. Lawrence. So we're upgrading everything, as you'll see, to that 300. On top of that, we're also looking at doing the same thing for sewage. So again, if we're supplying more water to the area, there will be more sewage. So we're looking at upgrading St. Lawrence Street pumping station. So that is our smallest pumping station right now. We just upgraded Main Street, as council will remember. That was really small, so similar, not to the grander scale though. That pumping station handles a lot more flow than this one will. So again, upgrading that pumping station to 30 liters. It currently operates at 14. So we are doubling the capacity, but it's just not as large as the Main Street project. A sanitary sewer replacement from Davidson to Fred, and then also a sanitary force main replacement, because as we upgrade everything, we'll have to upgrade those pipes as well. So this will all be phased. So council is aware. The reason why we're suggesting phasing is obviously this is very much centered in this area of Winchester, the southwest corner, I guess you could say. So we would phase it in over time, and that would allow us to do design and engineering kind of in a more affordable approach rather than just doing it all at once. So this project, we'd be applying for provincial funding for, so the total for this project would be 10.6 million. We're asking for province for, well, we're not asking, the province is telling us that they could possibly fund 7.7 million of that. 2.8 of that would come from the township. And we're suggesting to council that if we get that funding, that we would go 1 million from the reserve and then 1.3 million from development. So working with developers to get some of those upgrades done. And then long-term debt financing would be the 562. Priority 2 is John and Harper Street. So that is a collection, distribution, storm sewer upgrade, and also paving and sidewalk upgrades in those locations. So we've talked about this project before. So water distribution, we'd be getting a new 150 millimeter PVC pipe. Sewage is getting 200 millimeter diameter PVC pipe as well. And then we're redoing the storm sewer collection system there. So this is not allowing any new development though. So I just wanted to let council know that. And that's why we're suggesting that's a priority 2, because it seems the province is heavily reliant on projects that are enabling future growth. So that project, if we were to go ahead with it, provincial funding would be, total it would be 3 million. if we got the funding, it would be 2.1 from the province. OCIF funding could be stacked here, so I looked to Jamie, but there's about 180,000 we could get from OSIF to put towards this project, and then township funding would be 630,000, which would be coming out of the reserve and long-term debt financing. Priority 3 is the Winchester transmission line upgrade. So this, I don't want to say we're putting the cart before the horse here because I think that would be a misleading statement, but we would be upgrading the transmission line at some point anyways. So as we continue to grow, we'll need more water. Council's aware that we did the step test at Wellfield 8 recently, and it did conclude that we have capacity there to drill another well and to operate at 40 liters per second, which was our long-term goal, which is good news. But in that sense, the current transmission line can only handle 20 liters per second. So if we were to turn on the wells and operate at 40 liters per second, we would either need to twin that line or we would need a new line that's just larger. And that's what this priority is looking at. So it's about 11 kilometers of a new 600 millimeter water service pipe from Thompson Road all the way into Winchester. And again, we would be replacing hydrants and valves along the way as well. So those are part of the price. So yeah, so this total price here would be about 11 million for all of that work. And as part of that, we're actually looping in, because that line goes to the tower. When we have the road ripped up, we would do the storm and the sewer at the same time. Because as council is aware, when we rip up a road in town, we don't just rip it up for one, we rip it up and do all of the infrastructure underneath, because it makes more sense to do that rather than going back 5 years later and having to do that work. So that project cost is 11 million. Provincial funding we would qualify for 8.03. Township would have to fund 2.9 million. Reserve funding would be about 1.2 for that project, and then long-term debt funding would be 1.7. So that's priority 3 because we're not quite there yet. We'd like to get the new well that the 2 new wells we just drilled online. We haven't quite gone the 40 liters per second because that would require a new permit to take water and a new source water protection plan, which would again take 2-3 years, which the funding priority says that the work needs to start almost immediately. So that's why it's priority 3 for us. So we think my department feels quite certain that option 1 or priority 1 is probably the best application, but looking for council's feedback, of course, on which option you'd like us to pursue.
Thank you for that. Deputy Mayor.
I actually, when I went through our package, I wrote notes down of why I wanted priority 1, and I looked in my briefcase and I forgot my notes. So I'm trying to remember the basic things. One was option 1, it covers the grant requirements, like what they require from us to get the grant. It covers that. And then I think it fell in line with the repaving of St. Lawrence Street.
That's right.
Okay.
So, yeah, that's right.
It's required now. It's required for the housing that we already exist, and it's required for future housing. So I think it covers everything. Option 3, yes, we need it, but because of you said that we have a 5-year time frame, let's apply for the one that we need now.
Mm-hmm.
And then option 3, well, we worry about 2 or 3 years down the road when we go back to Toronto or Ottawa and ask for funding.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Councilor Lennox.
Yeah, I completely agree. Option 1 gives us the best ratio of bang for the buck. It provides growth. It provides, good timing opportunity with what's going on in St. Lawrence. The only thing that's scary to me is what's included in option 2, where that will have to be dealt with sooner than later. But for the purposes of this grant, would be option 1 would be the most logical.
Thank you. Further comments? Councilor Uhrig?
Yeah, I would definitely agree. Option 1, I mean, it's a situation that's impacting current development, let alone development to come. So certainly would, and I appreciate that it was, above that was kind of like the parameters in terms of what would, make it a good grant application, right? So all of that certainly falls in line. I mean, to Councilor Lennox's point, I do understand that priority 2 is something that we are going to obviously have to deal with sooner than later, and not to make it sound like it's nothing, but when you're looking at currently a $3 million project, which is something maybe we could take as a municipality versus a 10 or higher $1 million project, that's something, you know, if we have access to a grant stream, then absolutely we should be applying for it. So, no, I would agree with your department. That's a fantastic, I think, priority to have and set that going forward. So, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Annable.
I would agree with option one. It seems to be the one that covers most of the areas that we're concerned with. And as I said, option one, I think, would be my choice.
Thank you, Councillor. Saying all that, all those unless there's something more, Ms. Ward, no? Saying all that, all those in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Priority one. We're going to move into the consent agenda. Be resolved that all items listed under the consent agenda be approved/filed as recommended. Moved by Councillor Uhrig, seconded by Councillor Lennox. Questions, comments? All those in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, that's carried. No items for consideration. I don't think there's any notices of motion. Boards and committees. County Council, Deputy Mayor Bergeron. I hope you have your notes.
Okay, that was a short meeting too, by the way.
Yes, it was.
And what I thought was important to North Dundas is that the box culvert is going to be replaced on Highway 43, just west of Hallville, and so there's going to be a detour west of Hallville for those people who travel on 43 towards Kentville. And what was really neat about that report was, again, the cost, there was a lot of tenders people did bid on, and the costs were lower than what we had budgeted for, and that there would be enough money, I think, for a third culvert somewhere else. So that was, you know, we may as well have some good news with all the bad news of prices going up and going up. Can you think of anything else, Mr. Mayor? You were there.
No, ma'am.
I was wondering, when is that project going to start?
This summer sometime.
Okay.
This year.
Surprise.
Parade of Lights, I don't have anything. Garden Party Market, it was held last month. It was a success. The weather was good. And by all accounts and by what I had witnessed, it was a success as would be expected. Art in the Waterfront, Councillor Annable.
They had their last around the table meeting this Monday past. Now it's logistics, picking up liquor, getting ice, placing the soundstage. Like I say, it's logistics. I'm going down on Saturday to see if I can help, and I think they're pretty much ready to go.
Thank you. Historical Society, Councillor Annable.
There hasn't been a meeting. Well, no, that's not right. At the last meeting, they discussed having a bus trip, I believe it's to Brockville, and to see historical things that are up there. We had a speaker, Woody LaPrade, came to talk about his cameras and photography business and how it's developed over the years. So I think that's pretty much covers it.
Thank you. If I'm going to jump in on the CDHS, Madam Clerk, Madam CAO, myself, is it just the three of us?
That's right.
The three of us had a tour of the Chesterfield District Historical Society. Caroline Roberts and John Pemberton looked after us and gave us an overview of the challenges and some of the successes they've had. And they spoke about the upcoming bus tour to Brockville and some of the things they're going to see. They talked about traveling their time in Cornwall with the local historical museums in SDG and that networking that took place. So they are an active group. The Carnival, any update? Nothing? Green Action Gang, Dairy Fest, Deputy Mayor?
No.
Downtown?
They met last Friday night and planted the pots back street. Other than that, we've been rather quiet.
Thank you. Morwood RA?
Yeah, the Morwood RA's done meeting. They're taking their summer break. They're only going to reconvene on emergency basis. Other than that, they'll start up again in September. One recent update is they were unsuccessful for the Gord Downey grant for the Truth and Reconciliation Day. So they're looking into ways to fundraise and other grants. And yeah, they're an active group and a strong group. And I think they're going to tie it all together nicely still.
Thank you for that update. Council comments? I do have one. I have two. And the first one concerns Preston Stronach, our CBO. Preston has been selected to be the subject matter expert for review and updating of the new Ontario Building Code exam questions. There were hundreds of applicants and only a handful were selected to be part of the panel, and his contribution will not only shape the future of the building code standards, but also reflect the high caliber of expertise we are proud to have within our team. And congratulations go out to Preston for being selected to be part of that review panel. It's quite a feather in his cap. When I think that 3 years ago he was challenging the exams, and now he's 1 year ago. It seems, boy, time goes slow. And yeah, so to 1 year ago, Preston was challenging the exams to become our CBO, and within that year, he's been recognized by the OBC and those people that he needs to be part of the team re-examining the questions. So congratulations and kudos to him. I also want to talk about the upcoming, on June 14th, the upcoming Mayor's Cornhole Challenge. Some of you may remember last year we had the Mayor's Disc Golf Challenge that was held in South Mountain at the Rick Covier Memorial Park. This year it's held at the 100 Club Park. Some of it will be taking place inside the Joel Steele Center upstairs, I would imagine, some of the activities. And I just want to give a rundown of some of the things that will be taking place on Saturday, June 14th. Downtown Winchester at the 100 Club Park. 6 mayors of the municipalities of SDG will be competing in a cornhole competition. One of the mayors isn't able to make it, but the deputy mayor from South Glengarry will attend in Lachlan McDonald's place, and Deputy Mayor Lang is the warden, so we'll have the warden competing as well. The Chesterfield Cornhole League is going to provide equipment and assistance. The North Dundas Fire Prevention will be present to educate and hand out fire safety swag, as well as having their 1953 pumper on display. SDG will have a library table there. SDG Tourism will have a table there. Face painting is sponsored by Lactalis. The Bubble Guy is sponsored by Lactalis. I'm not sure what the Bubble Guy does. It has to do with bubbles. Dairy Fest will have a table of interest to many in our area. The Winchester Pickleball Club will be providing demonstrations and a tutorial. Community Food Share will have a table with information and be accepting monetary donations. The Winchester Lions Club will be hosting a barbecue, and it'll be voluntary donation open. And Dundas Dairy Producers will be providing educational information and handing out ice cream bars. I'm not done. North Dundas will have a swag and raffle table, a cornhole set that has been sourced through a donation will be raffled. That donation was from Lactalis to provide the cornhole set. And the curling club will have an information table, and some of us may remember the inflatable curling that takes place outside. It'll be there, fun for all. All of this is in support of the South. I'll get it wrong, so I better read it. It's in support of Parks and Recreation Month. It's in support of the Southeast, Ms. Meerberg, Southeast Recreation, Southeast Ontario Recreation Association. It's in support of promoting recreational activities and outdoor healthy stuff. This is the second year in a row we've done it. The second year in a row that kudos go to Lisa Devereaux for organizing this. As you can tell by the exhaustive list, she's been very busy getting it organized. So I do encourage everyone to attend. There is a challenge. The mayor's challenge is that it's a free, not a raffle, it's a free draw. Whatever I said was a raffle, it won't be a raffle, it's a free draw. No money is needed to enter this. Correct, madam? Thank you. And there will be a mayor's challenge. It's the Mayor's Cornhole Challenge, but a mayor's challenge, and if there's any proceeds to be had from the mayor's challenge, the proceeds will go to the successful mayor, the winner, and to the charity of his choice in the area. So, promises to be a fun-filled day on Saturday, June 14th. Any other council comments besides, anyone want to top that? Closed session, there's none? In camera, none? Open? Adjournment. Is there anything else before we go? No? Be resolved that council adjourn at 5:15 PM to the call of the chair, moved by Deputy Mayor Bergeron, seconded by Councillor Annable. All those in favor? Opposed, seeing none, that's carried. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. We had no one in the audience, but thanks to staff that were here, and thanks to all those that are paying attention online. And hopefully see you on Saturday, June 14th. And until then, take care.